Hi everyone, this is Anna from Customer Success Team in here, and today we'll speak about the high-level boards. These boards are often called the master boards or the overview boards, and the main idea of these boards is basically to allow you to stay on the top of the things and have a big picture of all the projects that you're currently working on, see their progress, understand where your help is needed. So let's have a closer look at one of the examples of the high-level boards that I've built for you. So let's say that we are an event management agency and we're working on multiple projects at the same time. I've structured this board by splitting all the 10 projects that we're currently working on into several groups of pulses and arrange them by month. For example, I have all the projects that are happening this month and all the projects that are happening next month. But it's really up to you how you can split it. It could be projects that you're working on this year, this month, this week. It really depends on the nature of your business. And if you feel that any of the projects has been postponed, you can simply drag and drop it to another group of pulses. Now, let's speak about the skeleton of this board. The body of this board are the columns. In this example, you have 5 different columns, and you can add more columns by clicking Add Column button over here, and you will see the whole selection of available columns. Let's speak about each and every column. Now, the first column that we have here is the person column. This is where you assign the project manager, and we can actually rename it to project manager. For example, I am working on the project 1, my colleague Emily is working on the project 2, my colleague Tan is working on project 3, and I'm also working on the project 4. Just like this. The project manager, the person who is assigned to this task, has the clear ownership of this task, and this would be your go-to person if you have any questions. Next 3 columns are the status columns. These status columns show you the phases of the project, the phases that they have to go through. For example, in the event management agency, we need to have our phase 1 would be to get the contract from the client. Phase 2 would be implementation of the process. And phase 3 would be approval, the most important part. By changing the status of statuses over here, you can mark when the stages have been completed and when you're ready to move forward. You can also play around with the wording. You can edit the labels. For example, the contract phase will have the wording signed instead of done. You can also change their orders, just like this. Don't forget to click done to save it. So that eventually you will have a full picture at a glance of where you are with all these projects. Another very important column is the due date. This is where you set the date, the deadline of the project. You can also sync it with your calendar to receive the reminders in your calendar as well. And you can also add these little marks over here. For example, you can set the green clock to show that you're following the schedule and the red one to mark that you're falling behind the planned schedule and some help is needed in here. What else is important for us to know? It's important to understand how much time we're spending on each and every project. For this, we can add the timeline column. In the timeline column, we can set the dates of when the project has started and when it's supposed to end, just like this. For example, this one started on the 2nd and needs to be finished on the 6th. Alternatively, what you can do, you can set the dates in the actual timeline view. You can make this timeline view narrower or wider. You can play around with it. So you can change the dates of when the project has started by dragging it. You can also change you can also move them around in the timeline. For example, this project needs to be finished on the 27th and it was started on the 22nd. We'll also set the dates for the expected projects that are happening next month, like this. And you will see that these pulses are color-coded, meaning that all the green pulses are all the projects that are happening in October, as per the color of the group, and all the projects happening next month are yellow. You can also play around with the display of the timeline. You can zoom in, just like this. You can zoom out. You can also filter the view. At the moment you see it's filtered by person, by the project manager, but you can change it and filter it to show it by groups so that you will see all the projects that are happening this month and all the projects that are happening next month. So timeline makes things super visual. Now let's close the timeline for now and add one more very important column. This is numbers column. This column we will use when we want to track the amount of money that we're spending, or maybe hours or other resources. In our case, let's track the amount of money we're spending on each project, and let's choose the currency that we're using. For example, we're spending money in US dollars, and we also, in the bottom of the group, we also want to see the total sum of money that's spent this month. In this column, you can just simply add the values, and in the bottom, you will see the total amount of money spent this month. So thanks to this board, you actually can see a big picture of where you are with the projects, how many have been completed, and thanks to color coding, it's making it very easy to understand at a glance. And the main idea is to turn this board green. You also see all the clear deadlines. You can also use filtering option to see, for example, how many tasks are assigned per person. So eventually, this board gives you a big picture and allows you to stay on the top of all your projects. If you have more questions about the high-level boards, feel free to reach out to us by clicking on this question mark and sending us support ticket. We're 24/7 and we'll be happy to help.